Hello, Internet. Welcome back to the 2H Media stream.
Glad to be back.
We're live, doing it live once in a while.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
No changes to the format. It's exactly what you've come to expect by now. We've got some great articles lined up that we're going to discuss.
Yeah.
I'm going to kick us right off.
Let's do it.
So, Google pulls the plug on uBlock Origin, leaving over 30 million Chrome users susceptible to intrusive ads. Google's campaign against ad blockers across its services just got more aggressive, according to a report by PC World. The company has made some alterations to its extension support on Google Chrome. Google Chrome recently changed its extension support from the Manifest v2 framework to the new Manifest v3 framework. The browser policy changes will impact one of the most popular ad blockers, arguably, uBlock Origin. The transition to the Manifest v3 framework means extensions like uBlock Origin can't use remotely hosted code. According to Google, it presents security risks by allowing unreviewed code to be executed in extensions. The new policy changes will only allow an extension to execute JavaScript as part of its package. Over 30 million Google Chrome users use uBlock Origin, but the tool will be automatically disabled soon via an update. Google will let users enable the feature via the settings for a limited period before it's completely scrapped. From this point, users will be forced to switch to another browser or choose another ad blocker, and this is coming from Windows Central.
So, first off, explain to everyone what uBlock Origin is.
It's an ad blocker. You've seen ad blockers before. uBlock Origin is the ad blocker we use internally. It's great. It helps us prevent sites from launching malicious code through pop-ups. It helps keep the internet much more user-friendly and easy to navigate. You can see why Google would want to fight this technology, because it does things like blocking YouTube ads. And it blocks a lot of tracking technology as well, which is very important to advertisers. And in our case, very important that we have turned off, because we don't want to see our own traffic when we're checking out the results of our advertising and our work for clients.
So, overall, I am a fan of ad blockers.
Yeah, me too. I mean, every consumer who's spending a ton of time on the internet should probably have an ad blocker installed. The changes Google is making are pretty upsetting if you're used to having access to this technology.
It doesn't block things like search engine results ads.
Right?
So, great, if you're going to make let's just be very clear here, if you're going to make a search on Google and the search engine result page shows, page 1, it doesn't prevent an ad from showing at the top of page 1 or at the bottom of page 1. It doesn't interfere with that, so we're not talking about that. So if you are advertising on Google, like we do, like a lot of people do, uBlock Origin and other ad blockers do not block that type of ad from displaying to a customer or potential customer, so that's fine.
If you're an older user and you were on the internet back in the 90s, you remember how bad things got.
Oh, it was.
With the pop-ups everywhere, things becoming completely unusable. Viruses all over the place. I mean, those days are behind us.
Yep.
And a big part of that is the prevalence and the quality of the ad blockers that we have available now. So, ad blockers are pretty important to all kinds of people. They're important to us for how we actually mask our traffic when reviewing our own content. And they're important for consumers, for keeping your computers safe from malicious code launched in pop-up ads, and just for making the internet a much more pleasant browsing experience.
Yeah.
But Google claims that they have really important reasons for removing this technology. They're claiming that it's preventing security risks through unreviewed code. I mean, there's a question of how legitimate is Google's excuse for blocking this feature, when really, I think, in my opinion, it's pretty clear that the reason they don't want people to have ad blockers is because it hides the ads, which is where Google makes most of their money. I think they're doing it for financial ad-driven reasons before security reasons, if there's any legitimacy to these security concerns at all.
So this is I completely agree with you. This is like, how legitimate is Google's reason for this? Now, big companies don't announce that they've got this big security vulnerability, because that invites people to exploit this security. So they're never going to be 100% truthful if they're saying, oh yeah, there's these super unsecure, our browser's no longer secure. They're never going to come out and say that. They're trying to stay a step ahead of that. Cool. So like, is it legit?
Now, the excuse of trying to avoid security concerns, that's been used before.
It's been used
over and over again. I think that's one of the big pushes against having competing app stores on iOS devices. Is Apple says, oh, it's a closed ecosystem. We don't want to let in unsafe apps. They have to use ours that are all vetted. That actually brings me to one of my biggest rebuttals against removing these features. Okay, Google doesn't want apps to be able to run code that isn't bundled into the app itself. They don't want them to be able to run unreviewed code except for JavaScript. Fine. That means there's a lot less you can do with these apps. People need access to that functionality in order to do some of the things that the apps are built for. I think limiting that feature entirely is a bit of a drastic step in addressing these privacy concerns, particularly when you could also address the privacy concerns by just doing a stronger job vetting the companies that are on your app store and have access to this functionality in the first place.
Yeah. I think this comes down to money.
Yeah.
This is a money play. Now, in the world of ad blockers and browsers and technology companies, it's always attack and defense. It's always the browser does something to defend itself so that its ads will show, and then the ad blocker will make an update, and it goes back and forth. It's attack and defend, and that battle I don't think will ever stop, because there are very, very good developers on both sides of the equation. There are. So this might be the end of what we know as uBlock Origins as it sits today, and businesses don't go down without a fight. I think it won't be very long before there's another version of something that's going to pop back up. Now, whether that's
or people just switch to another browser.
Or you could switch
here.
to DuckDuckGo. You could switch to
even Firefox.
You could switch to a whole bunch of other things. Like that's always been an option. That's always been an option. And I like the fact that, like, you know, if it's not a good experience, it's not a good experience. And if they destroy their own ecosystem through only focusing on the bottom line, they will lose. Because again, how hard is it to download another? Every single computer that you ever buy comes with Internet Explorer.
What's the purpose of Internet Explorer, Matt?
To download Chrome. It's a nice little Rick and Morty.
Which might be, you know what? It might be for Firefox.
Now it might just be for Firefox.
Brave browser is getting pretty popular as well.
Yep.
Yeah, there's lots of options out there other than running Google Chrome. Yep. And I'll tell you, the second my ad blocker stops working,
I'll be looking for something else, because it's immediate. You're going to see the decline in.
That'll be the day I switch browsers. 100%.
So like, what now? That's a great question. Is like, sorry. Are ad blockers important? Yeah, very. Like Aaron said, if it stops working and our experience is negatively impacted to the degree that I expect it will be, yeah, it's very. It takes 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Boom. New browser gets installed, some plugins get put in place, and you're up and running, and it's probably a 15-minute total.
I would also argue that it's disingenuous for Google to say that ad blockers cause privacy concerns when there's so many, or not privacy, security concerns. When there's such a high risk of clicking on a sketchy pop-up and downloading something malicious, I'm way more concerned about getting bad code off of a random ad somewhere on the internet than I am downloading uBlock Origin or installing uBlock Origin, which
that's trusted by 30 million people.
Well, this is exactly it, right? Like, it's been in use for a long time. I think, even if you restricted this feature to companies that are over a certain scale, that's going to do a lot to solve Google's legitimate security concerns without shutting down access to apps and features that people really rely on. We're going to come back to Google a little later in this discussion because this is a company that is fairly consumer unfriendly at times, and they've been in the news a lot lately. But Before we do that, let's talk about another company that's making headlines. Matt, do you want to read us in while we talk about Reddit?
Yeah, my other favorite big giant, Reddit. Reddit might let users make paid subreddits. You might have to pay to access some subreddits in the future. During an earnings call on Tuesday, that would have been, I think, just a few days ago, Reddit CEO Steve Huffman hinted at new types of subreddits that can be built that may have exclusive content or private areas. I think, quote, "I think the existing altruistic free version of Reddit will continue to exist and grow and thrive just the way it has," Huffman said. "But now we will unlock the door for new use cases, new types of subreddits that can be built." Huffman said he doesn't think that these gated communities would cannibalize the site, which has seen an increase in users over the past few months. The site's daily active users jumped 51%, bringing the total to 91.2 million users, while its revenue also increased by 54% to $281.2 million. Based on a statement from Reddit, it appears the exclusive areas mentioned by Huffman could have a paywall. We've had versions of premium community features in the past, like our Gold Lounge, that users loved, and now we're exploring new ways to empower moderators and communities to try exclusive spaces and content. Reddit spokesperson Tim Rathenschmidt tells The Verge, "We'll let you know when we have more to share," and that is coming from The Verge. So, first off, it feels when we have this type of content, so like just even before I get to those discussion topics, it feels paid content like this feels a little bit more like Substack, where you've got written content behind a paywall, where it's moderated by a select group of people. It's obviously still different because it's a more forum-based than an author-driven, but this type of content already exists online. There's many different types of things like this. It's just Reddit is primarily known for open information without paywalls.
So it's talking about the history of Reddit a little bit. Are you familiar with r/Gold Lounge and how that works?
I am not.
Okay, so back before Reddit overhauled their award system,
yes,
you used to be able to buy Reddit Gold.
Yes,
and then it wasn't like the gold membership. No, it was a meaningless little icon. Yeah. You could buy gold, and then you could award gold to someone's post if you really liked it. It was like a stronger way to show that something was cool
beyond
beyond just
system.
upvoting it. Yeah. So r/Gold Lounge, if you were gilded, if one of your posts received gold, you gained access to this subreddit, and that was a requirement for membership, and you didn't have access otherwise. And I believe you could just buy gold yourself and gain access that way. I'm not super certain.
But you still needed it.
But you still needed
one
it,
way or
right?
another.
So someone paid for gold and it got you access to this subreddit. And that was fine. Like, it was just a cool niche little thing. I mean, it was one subreddit in
50 million subreddits.
Yeah. And there was another one that was like even more exclusive if one of your comments on r/Gold Lounge got gold.
She got gold.
And it was all very silly, but like it was kind of a joke. Everyone knew it was a joke. I've seen a lot of people concerned about what this change means for the platform.
I'm concerned about this because I use Reddit every day.
And it's interesting. So Reddit has become super important to the internet in a bunch of ways. Number one, it's one of the best platforms for having a conversation on. The upvote feature, the downvote feature, the ability to collapse a comment, it makes navigating the discussion much more enjoyable than trying to do it on like a traditional social media site or like signing up into individual forums for all the different things you're interested in. And there's a good chance if you have a problem with something or if you need to learn how to do something, someone's had the same issue before and they've either gone to Reddit looking for the solution or posted the solution to Reddit just in case someone else needs it. So like even in terms of finding the most relevant information, it's very, very common for me to just add Reddit to the end of a Google search in order to end up on an archived Reddit page that answers that question. So there's a lot of concern that if subreddits suddenly start throwing up paywalls, all of that historical data that is very, very useful to the average user might become locked behind these subscriptions, and now you lose that super powerful and really important resource.
Now, the big thing there and we're not going to get an answer to this because Huffman's not with us, but he doesn't think that these gated communities would cannibalize the site. That I would love to hear his rationale on how he doesn't think it would cannibalize the site.
Hot take. I agree with him.
Hot take.
I agree with him.
You think so? So let me guess. You think that they'll come up with a feature, and subreddits and mods will choose just not to paywall their stuff and just say no, we're going to leave it. The users will speak and say.
I think it's going to really depend on the community.
Yeah.
Some communities will not benefit from a paywall and won't go that direction.
They will not.
So like if you've got, the Shopify subreddit is a perfect example. People are on there talking about e-commerce stores, getting advice from each other. If you paywall that subreddit, membership is going to die out. That's not something people are going to pay money for.
Yep.
And it's going to lose all of its value because it gets its value from the user base. I think that's going to be true of most subreddits. If you throw a paywall up, people are just going to move to a different subreddit.
There'll be another set of mods. It'll be like Shopify 2 subreddit.
And I think that most of I don't want to compliment Reddit mods, but I think most of the mods running these subreddits are smart enough to recognize that if they throw a paywall up, they're going to lose their audience and the subreddit's going to disappear. Yeah. So I really don't see it cannibalizing.
So give me before you go on, because you said there's a bunch that won't. Give me one that
will.
would.
I'm building up to that. I don't see it cannibalizing the subreddits because in most of the cases it just doesn't make sense to. Mm-hmm. I think there are going to be new subreddits created using this feature that will make a lot of sense, and I'll come back to that. And I could see some of the existing subreddits going this way, but I don't know how much of a change it's actually going to be. So like you've got Wall Street Bets, and
personal favorite.
I mean, yeah, everyone's heard of Wall Street Bets. They made a bunch of news with their GameStop speculation a couple of years back and the big short squeeze. Sorry, GameStop.
Yeah. Anti-work was a big one. They made the move. They made news.
But I'm talking about something specific here. So Wall Street Bets, great, super popular, very famous subreddit, but it's a lot of gamblers.
Yes.
As the name implies, making bets on the stock market. That's not going to have a paywall. It wouldn't make any sense. No. There is a much more serious subreddit. I'm forgetting the name now, but it's dedicated to like more in-depth deep dives into stocks and discussing on a deeper level. I could see a subreddit like that throwing up a paywall just to keep out the less serious members of Reddit.
Could.
Right? So if you're used to the culture on Wall Street Bets and you see another financial subreddit and you think, oh, I can just jump in here and bring this community with me and it's all going to be the same. We're on Reddit. It's just for a laugh. I can see that being really annoying to the members of that subreddit.
Yeah, the mods are going to have to do a lot of work to clean that up.
Well, if they can just throw a paywall on the subreddit and lock it out so that they only get high quality users, I can see that having a lot of benefit. Something awful. The forum that was responsible for like a lot of big moves on the internet. This is where the Let's Play concept really came from. They used to have, I don't know if they still do, they used to have a subscription cost to join the forum. And it was really inexpensive, but having a one-time fee associated with joining the forum meant that they kept out a lot of the bots and a lot of the casual users, and they were able to cultivate the culture they were looking to cultivate. We've seen Elon Musk make a similar move with monetizing new Twitter accounts in order to keep the bots out.
Right. It's like $1 or something arbitrary,
right.
But it still keeps the bots out.
So from that perspective, I can see it having some value, and in my opinion, most of the Googleable value for Reddit is the broader, more general subreddits, where a paywall wouldn't make sense. Now, the other place where I see people building new subreddits to capitalize on this feature is subreddits that are primarily driven by specific content creators. So a perfect example would be all the people using Reddit as a platform to promote their OnlyFans accounts. I could see them making the migration to also having a private subreddit that you can now subscribe to.
Right.
Because from the sounds of it, this is not Reddit locking down content and taking all of your money for Reddit. I'm sure they get a cut.
Yep.
But it was described as letting users make paid subreddits. And so
Yes.
my projection is that the biggest reason that they're doing this is to compete with platforms like OnlyFans that are taking that paid traffic off of the website. And with that point in mind, if Reddit rolls this out and it's a new niche that gains popularity and competes with those other websites, I agree with the CEO. I don't see it cannibalizing the existing content that people are coming to the site for.
And again, I would kind of agree with that a little bit too, where it's like if it was cannibalizing, it doesn't prevent someone opening another subreddit that's got the same type of content on it, unless it's specific to the user itself, the creator that owns the. So yeah, if what's the one that there's a bunch of nature subreddits and nature's lit, things like that. Nature's
like r/pics isn't going to get a paywall.
No, it's not going to get a paywall. It's not going to get a paywall.
It wouldn't make any sense.
And again, even if it did, there'd be a new one, Pics 2, and it would be to the same stuff. So
now I'll admit this is a pretty optimistic interpretation.
Yes.
It is Reddit. They've made unpopular decisions in the past. The big move they made with the API switch was pretty heavy-handed. They could absolutely take this in the same heavy-handed direction where now Reddit is deciding what's behind a paywall. I could see a world where they paywall posts that are older than a certain date, and you need to have some kind of premium Reddit subscription to gain access to this older content. And because that would let them monetize that historical data that's very valuable in search.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, from what I've seen from Reddit in the last 12 to 24 months, everything is going towards increasing revenue before an IPO. If they can prove that they're more valuable prior to IPOing the business, there are people getting paid.
Oh yeah. And
if they're able to increase revenue and show investors that it's a profitable business and that there's more, it's not like they're not making any money. $281 million for mostly user-generated content with free, there's still infrastructure support Reddit, and there's a lot there, but still, that's a lot of revenue. If they're going to throw even more on that, then IPO's looking real tasty. So, what does that mean for the platform? Well, some things are going to change.
Yep. I think we've more or less covered our discussion topics. Yeah. So what does it mean for the platform? How are people reacting to the
I think people are reacting to reviews fairly negatively.
Yep. Because people are upset about the concept of I won't be able to access my favorite subreddits anymore.
And that's, I don't want to fearmonger. That has not been said at all. That is all speculation. So I'm not going to be able to interact with, whatever. No, that's never been said. There's a fear of that, but there's nothing there. I've not read anything around them turning off your Wall Street bets, whatever. So now, is some of that money going to go to the mods? Is some of that money going to go back to creators? I don't know what that breaks down. I don't think there's been any news around.
Well, again, this isn't even a new feature that's out. This is speculation by the CEO about a direction the company might go. We don't even know if this is happening.
The second word in the post is might.
Yeah.
So this is definitely.
This is speculative.
It's speculative. The whole thing's speculative, which is fine. We like doing that here. We like playing out the scenarios. It's fun. I enjoy it.
At this stage, I'm neither for nor against it.
If it's done well, I'd be for it.
Yeah. And if it's done poorly, we're against it.
It's such a not. Yeah. And so again,
2H Media, we are for
good things and
well,
against
and
bad
we're against bad things.
We are. You can quote us on that. So we'll see. And so we will definitely be coming back to this topic in the future when there's more here, because it will impact a bunch of things. So
when they finally launch it, if they launch it, that'll make news. Yeah. We'll need to talk about it.
It's funny. We were talking yesterday. I'm like, my mom uses Reddit. She follows the art Guelph subreddit, and there's a couple of art communities, and it's just oh wow, it's clearly grown, because I could go back a few years and my mom would have no idea. Even the older generation is this is super cool. There's people in Guelph talking about stuff in Guelph. It's
I only started on Reddit maybe 5 years ago. I don't know about you. I'm certainly not a veteran of the platform.
I am a lurker. I've been using Reddit on and off. It's got to be 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been on there for a while.
There's a very good R electricians when I was in the trades.
Okay.
There's a lot of tradespeople on the platform too. So back when I was in the trades, there's a lot of information around that. It's very
That's
accessible.
a good point. Like, this is not a platform that's only for like marketing
No.
guys or computer nerds. Like, it's used by a real large variety of people.
Equipment manufacturers, like there's just a lot of information on it, and then obviously it supports video, it supports text, it supports images. Like, it was just a good I would end up finding good information through Reddit, and then typically there'd be like a YouTube link to go actually like watch the thing there before YouTube got like really,
And listen,
really big.
ultimately, if things go too wrong at Reddit, if things go too far off the rails, there are surprisingly government agencies that are actually taking quite an interest in monitoring tech companies and enforcing their behavior these days. The governments are doing a really good job keeping the other tech companies in line, which actually brings us to our third topic. And of course, back to Google, because a judge tells Google to brace for shakeup of Android apps, shakeup of Android App Store as punishment for running a monopoly. San Francisco AP, a federal judge on Wednesday indicated he will order major changes in Google's Android App Store to punish the company for engineering a system that a jury declared an illegal monopoly that has hurt millions of consumers and app developers. Over the course of a 3-hour hearing in San Francisco, U.S. District Judge James Donato made it clear that the forthcoming shakeup he is contemplating will probably include a mandate requiring Google Play Store for Android phones offer consumers a choice to download alternative app stores. Donato has been weighing how to punish the Google. That's from the article. Has been weighing how to punish the Google since last December, when a jury declared the Play Store a monopoly following a 4-week trial. The verdict centered on Google's nearly exclusive control over distribution of apps designed for Android phones and the billing systems for the digital commerce occurring within them, a system that generates billions of dollars in annual revenue for the company. In protesting the judge's potential requirements, Google has raised the specter of consumers' devices being infected by malicious software downloaded from third-party app stores, triggering security chaos. And that's in quotes. Donato said he is hoping to issue an order outlining the framework for the changes to the Play Store within the next few weeks, possibly before the Labor Day weekend, and this is coming from the Associated Press.
Funny about this, I learned about this from front page of Reddit.
There you go.
That's how I found this. We found this news just a few days ago. Aron actually found the article, but I saw this as well because Reddit.
Yeah.
So
crazy
here. This is crazy because
This is a
Monopoly
big deal.
and Google, they try to make sure that those words are never in the same sentence.
Oh yeah.
They.
I mean, we haven't seen a tech shakeup that's been big since like the Microsoft Internet Explorer scandal back in like the late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
This is huge.
This is big. Yeah, Google, that's their least favorite word for sure.
At the same time, I don't really get what's going on here. So Google is claiming that we'll have security chaos if people can load apps from an app store that's not the Google Play Store. Well, how many app stores do you have on your Samsung phone? Because I know I've got 2 app stores on my Samsung phone. I've got Google Play and then I've got the Samsung one.
Yep, I got the same too.
I can also load in whatever app that I want by just downloading an APK from a website. And I haven't run into any chaos now because I typically know what apps I'm downloading. So great. If they allow other app stores on Android devices, which it seems like is already a thing.
So time out. I'll play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
You are an above average individual when it comes to technology.
Yeah, it's true. I grew up with it. I'm very comfortable with it.
So your exposure here is going to say, yeah, because you're going to go and trust it, and like again, you're going to go and find what you actually want. So I don't want to say that Google's completely out of bounds because people get tricked into buying gift cards. Okay, so tricked into downloading an app that's not safe.
But my point is that's already a possibility.
Yes, and that's where I'm trying to come back to.
If anything, an alternate app store run by a trusted source,
the free market app store
should be. Well, no. Let's be serious about this.
Yeah,
Google's got their own app store, and it's a walled garden, kind of. Great.
Yep.
But
Samsung's got one.
You can also install other apps on the site, on the platform, just from wherever. You can download them off of random internet sites. If anything, having more app stores to download apps from is going to make the platform more secure, because you're going to have opportunity to get apps that didn't go through Google's ecosystem, but went through someone's ecosystem, and that someone can monitor the quality of the content.
But how will Google get paid?
Well, I mean, again, yes, it comes down to Google wanting their cut.
And this is going to be the exact same as the Apple App Store. Google's got the monopoly in iOS devices, or Android devices, and Apple's got the monopoly in iOS and Apple devices. So
it's an argument that makes more sense to me when it's applied to Apple.
Yes.
Because you can't sideload apps on Apple. You cannot download an APK from any random website and install the app. You either have to use the ones that are approved by Apple through their App Store, or jailbreak the device, which is a whole other leap, and then you can use whatever you want.
So I would say both are a monopoly. They're both, and this is what happens when you've got these companies worth billions. Their reach is billions. They're very, very into, like, they're building hardware, they're building the software that supports it. They're great. So I definitely think that, obviously, again, is bound by its shareholders to make more money every year, and it makes a lot of money through its App Store. And again, I like the App Store. I don't download that many apps. I don't have any. I'm not spending money on Candy Crush, but that's fine. People do. People like spending the money where they spend their money. Google wants a cut of it. What does this mean for consumers? Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We're gonna see. The judge has not. We'll see how punitive the results are. I don't think there's ever been a fine that they're going to shrug this off. It can be in the billions, and they're still going to shrug it off. They're going to
Google's going to come out the other side of this and be okay, one way or another.
They're going to say, yeah, it is what it is, and they're going to make some adjustments. So great. It's going to say, oh yeah, they were fined. Pick the biggest fine in the world, $30 billion in fines, because it's affected people for decades.
Well, and okay, so
they're going to shrug it off.
They open up more app stores on Android devices. What's this mean for consumers? I figure your average consumer is going to keep using the 4 or 5 apps they're used to, and they're going to keep getting them from the Google Play Store, and they're never going to know that this happened.
Yeah, they're going to download the weather app. They're going to download their couple when they get a new device. Now, there's going to be some subset of users, potentially Aron and I, that are a little bit more tech savvy, that are going to say, hey, this does open up some stuff.
Yep.
Maybe we can go get something over here. This does further technology, because people will be more motivated to create things where they're not paying Google a huge percentage of the cost, the revenue that the app will drive. It should, less barriers mean more innovation.
Now, it could also be a pain for consumers. I will give you that, because we've seen on the Windows ecosystem, if you want to play video games, you can get them through Steam, and it's really convenient, and it's easy, and it's great.
Download, done.
And then if you want to get video games from certain companies, you have to now download their third-party app as well and log in through that. It's a bunch of hoops to jump through. I could see this going the same way.
It could be a pain.
If Epic decides to launch the Epic Game Store as its own ecosystem on Android, I could see them pulling all of their properties from the Google Play Store, and now you've got to use 2 apps to get access to everything you want, and that's a pain.
They will do that, because if they can control their own ecosystem, businesses will make that shift, because immediately they will say, I can generate 40% more revenue for the people that already love our product, and they're going to download an app, and they're going to try and make that as frictionless as possible, but it's still going to have a little bit of friction. But they're going to say, yeah, we just increased our bottom line through apps by 40%, and great, good for them.
Now, in terms of immediate impact on the work we do and how this is going to impact our customers and the people they work with, if the Google App Store gets broken out from Google,
it will affect Google Ads.
Does this affect Google Ads? Yeah. What's the impact? What do you predict?
Yeah, so there's a big impact in Google Ads for sure. There's a specific ad product that Google offers specifically for app developers to advertise their apps in the Google App Store. So great, if I was an app developer and I'm selling, we've all seen mobile app downloads. So if you're scrolling through your social feeds or whatever, there's app developers that are creating content for games, education, all kinds of things. If that ecosystem gets broken up now, you're going to have to, if you want to advertise, so let's just say we'll use Epic, for example. Epic creates its own launcher, and I am a keyboard manufacturer for the gaming industry. Well, before I could go to Google's ecosystem and I could advertise the sweet keyboard to the fan base that is downloading, games. They're going to have to now go, well, if Epic is over here, I have to go take my ads over here too because I know my customer base is over here because they're the ones downloading Epic games. And I don't know how that experience is going to be advertising through Epic's ad network.
Yeah.
It could be terrible, it could be great. It's going to be new. So like I lean on it will be bad because it's new and the kinks haven't worked out again. So those advertisers will see, those brands that are advertising on Google will see a dip in revenue because they're just won't be able to get their ad in front of their audience as easy as it is now. So again, if I take all my audience and move it over here to this launcher, and I was relying on Google to sell keyboards, that's going to stop.
Yeah.
Google will not have an audience because people will be pulling out of it. Now, is Epic? Again, we'll play the whole thing out. Is Epic going to say the only way to get our content is over here? Maybe.
Well, that's one of my big questions.
Will they be available in two places?
If it's available
Who
in two
knows?
places, then I think your average user doesn't care.
Doesn't care. They will still say, great, we're gonna not get charged for the extra revenue through that. Now let's take the app developers out of it. Let's just say we're the advertiser.
Yeah.
I'm the keyboard manufacturer. I'm the mouse. I do my mouse pads. I do the accessories, gaming chairs, whatever. Pick a thing. They're going to have a harder time because now their audience is more fragmented. If Epic Games pulls 30% of their audience out of downloading their stuff through the Google Play Store, well, that 30% of the audience is now gone, and the people that are still left selling chairs and keyboards are now going to be bidding higher because the pool of customers is smaller, and I still need to sell a lot of chairs.
Could there be an upside in terms of targeting?
If it depends if the new ads ecosystem over on the Epic Games Store has those abilities. So
I mean,
yes,
even if they didn't, you can make some generalizations
could.
about the kind of users that are on that store.
you can absolutely do that. You can absolutely do that. I'm looking at that from how much information am I going to get through that ecosystem? Am I going to be able to segment this out between a Canadian and a US customer? Mm-hmm. What am I going to get? What am I not going to get? Because these new app stores will just not have the infrastructure that the Play Store has or the iOS store has. They will, because they're going to see it as an opportunity to make money from advertisers to sell keyboards and chairs. And so I think it's good. It's going to be turmoil in the market because, again, those 30% will leave right away. That will just happen because if they pull it, they'll pull it. So if you are a manufacturer of a product, you should be paying closer attention to this because if this is a primary source of revenue for you and you make good margin advertising that network is going to change regardless. So just be prepared for that. I don't know, it's just this hasn't happened yet. We're going to have to wait to this judge.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Just to be clear, most of the conversation we're having is speculative.
Right? That's what we do here. We like it here. Yeah. We like that.
We try to be transparent. We try to give people the best, most accurate information, but
it's from our perspective.
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't sit in the courtroom and follow this whole thing. I wasn't privileged to any, sensitive information. I get to read the articles. I get to follow what I see on the news, and then we are just based on our experiences giving our 2 cents. So I just, from what I know, and this has happened in the past with other ad ecosystems, if the ad ecosystem breaks up, the advertiser is going to have to shift very quickly because they're going to see a dip in revenue immediately.
Oh yeah.
And again, they're going to have to.
Like I say, it's speculative, but we're trying to give people the best information. Yeah. Finding legitimate information online can be challenging.
King of the segues.
And is only getting more challenging. Do you want to read us into our last topic? Because there's some changes going on Meta that people are finding pretty upsetting.
Yes. Meta, our friends at Meta, kill off misinformation tracking tool Crowdtangle, despite pleas from researchers and journalists. Facebook and Instagram parent Meta Platforms has shut down Crowdtangle, a tool widely used by researchers, watchdog organizations, and journalists to monitor social media posts, notably to track how misinformation spreads on the company's platforms. Wednesday's shutdown, which Meta announced earlier this year, has been protested by researchers and nonprofits. In May, dozens of groups, including the Center for Democracy and Technology, the Digital Forensic Research Lab at the Atlantic Council, Human Rights Watch, and NYU's Center for Social Media and Politics, sent a letter to the company asking that it keep the tool running through at least January so it would be available through the US presidential elections. The decision jeopardizes essential pre- and post-election oversight mechanisms and undermines Meta's transparency efforts during this critical period, and at a time when social trust and digital democracy are alarming fragile, the letter said. In March, the nonprofit Mozilla Foundation sent Meta a similar letter asking to keep the tool, which is available for free, functioning until January. The letter was also signed by several dozen groups and individual academic researchers. Meta has released an alternative to Crowdtangle called the Meta Content Library, but access to it is limited to academic researchers and nonprofits, which excludes most news organizations. Critics have also complained that it is not as useful as Crowdtangle, at least not yet. Nick Clegg, Meta's president of global affairs, said in a blog post last week that the company has been gathering feedback about Meta Content Library from hundreds of researchers in order to make it more user-friendly and help them find the data they need for their work. Meta said Wednesday that Crowdtangle doesn't provide a complete picture of what's happening on its platforms and said its new tools are more comprehensive. This is from ABC News. So, very interesting tool. Obviously, most of our viewership, and including us, we don't spend a ton of time analyzing data like this and tracking what is misinformation and what is not misinformation. I wouldn't consider us journalists. I wouldn't consider us researchers. We're definitely not a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. We are not using these types of tools every day. Some things obviously don't pass the smell test. But yeah, fake news is obviously a problem. News is easily manipulated online. There's lots of people, believing things that they shouldn't believe. In the age of using AI to generate content,
there's such a flood.
That's just rampant. I mean, I see tons of it. Yep. I see whether it's political content or it's all kinds of content that is being manipulated, and those actors are fairly unknown because you're not digging into who's this post from? It's just in your feed. Is it funny? Okay, great, but that does have a psychological impact on potentially some audiences. So, especially for younger audiences or older audiences that are more susceptible to just consuming content and not questioning it.
So understanding what a big problem
wild
this is.
Yeah.
Misinformation online is huge.
Wild.
Facebook or Meta is stripping away a tool to deal with it. It sounds like their new tool might be okay. I don't know.
Maybe.
We'll see.
It's new.
Yeah.
And new means the bugs haven't worked out yet. But new is sometimes good too.
So big picture, can we trust platforms and the companies that own those platforms to prevent misinformation?
There's a specific rule, especially in the States, that these platforms love hiding behind. And they are not a publisher. A publisher is held responsible for the content on their platform. If they were ruled publishers, there would be all kinds of lawsuits, there would be all kinds of things, and we would be able to trust them because there's no way it would fly. They would have to guarantee. So they're not a New York Times is a publisher. It has to stand behind the things that it says.
Yep.
And they're susceptible to all kinds of lawsuits and cases and things like that. If New York Times puts a post on Facebook, Facebook is not the publisher. Facebook is the platform. If what New York Times or any other news that says is incorrect or slander or whatever, if they get things wrong, it's not Facebook that's held liable. It is New York Times.
Well, and I would even argue that if they were a publisher, we still couldn't trust them.
Oh no,
to prevent misinformation because companies change ownership.
Companies have agendas. Companies can, there's all kinds of things. Pick a thing.
We see newspapers and television providers changing ownership, and then we start to see
different
views.
Our policies say this. It's who sets the policies? The company sets the policies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So trust is, most platforms have some kind of moderation or some kind of trust factor or something like that. This is interesting. I find this interesting because Meta kills off misinformation tracking tool Crowdtangle. I don't know why you just wouldn't run two. Here's the one that's from Meta, and here's Crowdtangle, and you've got two competing technologies.
No, I believe Crowdtangle was Meta's feature. It's a feature.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes, that is.
To replace
I would run.
So there's lots of reasons to get rid of the feature. Maybe it was expensive.
Could have been.
Right? It's tough to say.
Yep.
I don't know. I generally speaking,
it is theirs. Yeah.
Even with this technology in the mix, I still wouldn't be leaning on the platforms for a crucial tool like this when trying to determine the legitimacy of content.
I completely agree with that.
It's like, I would love to be able to trust those companies fully to not mess with any of the data, be totally above board and transparent about everything, not pull the rug on the technology that you're using, but you just can't count on that.
There's a meme. We've conducted an internal investigation and found we have done no wrong.
Oh, yes.
It's like, well, that's not how investigations and data should, and that's true of everyone. And I'm sure we can think of a few organizations, but that's not how it should work. It should be a third-party independent.
Even if the tool is awesome and transparent and you can trust it because they're just passing on raw data and leaving it up to you to interpret, well, they can still pull the plug on that tool and discontinue it. So, like, I wouldn't be relying on that at the end of the day to figure out how truthful the content on any given platform is. There are tools out there that work fairly well. So one of our discussion topics, what are the best tools for fighting misinformation online?
Oof.
I really like what X.com, formerly Twitter, has done with the community notes.
Community notes is a good one.
Right?
Yep.
It's not perfect because you can still dive into a community note and use it to present misinformation if you've got enough people behind you and you're like brigading a post. But the fact that they have that option to call suspicious content into question and make it very visual is a really cool feature. It's rumored that YouTube is contemplating doing the same thing with videos.
That is super cool. I'd say one of the best ones is just like the stuff that happens through Wikipedia.
Yeah. User moderated, heavily documented. You go and you look in the footnotes, you are finding what's there. There's a lot that goes into making sure what is listed is accurate. And that's an interesting point, because with the Wikipedia example, what makes it work is that they're listing their sources. And if you wanted to, you could go visit all of those sources and find out what information is, where the information is coming from. And you can tell for yourself if you trust those sources and if it's legitimate. I don't know how many people actually do click through those links to find the information, but it's astonishing.
It's available. What
a great platform Wikipedia is for capturing the raw information on any given topic.
This year's going to be a fun year. And fun is a relative term. There's just a lot going on. Whether it works out, it works out. But like something like this is definitely, there's got to be tools in place because, and I mean, without getting into any conspiracy theories here, there's obviously a big election happening in the States this year.
Yep.
There's a big election happening in Canada the year after.
The full article delves into that in a little more detail.
Yeah.
One of the big reasons people have asked Meta to push back the changeover is to get through the election.
To get through and you know what? The U.S. election, great. Yeah, they're a bigger superpower than Canada is. Canada's the election in 2025 is just as important for Canadians as the U.S. election is to them.
Yep.
So like, great, they're going to have a lot of the the lobbying power to try and get this extended to January, but it should be for every election. Period. Like in all of the democratic companies across the world, Meta plays a part in those results. Period. Not just the U.S. It's happening all over the place. These are global platforms. So like, let alone the States, something needs to happen, because when there are elections worldwide, whether it be in Germany or Canada or the United States, the amount of misinformation is wild.
Oh yeah.
I've got some favorites. Like they're hilariously fun and great. And again, AI is only making that worse. You've seen fake burgers and fake food and fake products, fake everything.
Now, I will also say I don't hold it against Facebook or Meta that they scrap this feature. It's as useful as these tools are, and as much as we're saying don't trust the platform to be responsible for this, they are still a business at the end of the day.
They are.
And if they felt like this feature was costing them money or not making them enough money, well, fair enough. That's up to them. And yes, the businesses are going to represent their own best interests, but that's their job. They should represent their own best interests.
Yep.
And we need to look for.
So what happens in that case? What happens in that case when you've got a corporation that is trying to make money, and they're able to do things that they're able to do? We have this wonderful system called the government that should have to step in and pass laws to change things. That's the only thing these things actually gets changed is through a democratic process. Some government body passes some laws that force corporations and businesses to comply with that new law, and then they have to do or be held liable for the consequences of not doing that. That's how this works. So we should not be leaving it up to Meta or any business to just say, we're going to do the right thing because it's in our hearts.
Yeah.
No, we should be making it a law saying, well, it's good. It's part of your ethics. Great. I'm glad your ethics are as such.
And now you have to enforce it.
But it's also against the law to not do it. So like, great for you being a good actor, but like if you don't do it, or if there are bad actors out there, they have to be held to that regard. So I would love to see that out of our government.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that all the time. Like accountability is a wonderful word that should be enforced more often. And these big platforms have the money. So like, again, when you say like, oh, well, it was costing a bunch of money, I could tell you, I could make a Google search and a half and find out what their revenue was and what their profitability was.
Oh yeah.
And they've got the money. This isn't putting pressure on a small business to say, you got to go spend every dollar and take out a loan. No, they've got the money already. These are the titans of industry that have built this infrastructure. They have the resources to do this better. I would love to see government say, okay, we'll do it better.
Absolutely.
Do it better.
We're seeing governments stepping in and holding tech companies accountable.
Yep.
So it'll be really interesting to see where this goes. Do you have any final thoughts on, Meta killing off this tool, or
I've got
fighting misinformation online?
I've got a preview for next stream, and it's going to have to do essentially with this. The FTC, and this is like news as of like today, so we haven't dove into it yet, so the next stream we're going to touch on it.
Yep.
The FTC has governing body has put rules in place to actually ban fake online reviews.
Oh wow.
And this is going to affect platforms. This is going to affect a lot of businesses so that you cannot generate fake content and use that to manipulate.
It's going to be really, really difficult to enforce that on a lot of platforms.
It is. And there's lots of information coming out of this, so we're not quite ready to talk about it. This is like as of the last little bit, but the Federal Trade Commission, and it was unanimous vote. So we're going to get into that at a later time, but it's good to start seeing, and that's kind of the segue into the government doing things and the governing bodies. It's only beneficial to real life people, the neighbors that you've got, everyone in society, if there's more accountability online.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see that in every aspect, in government policy, in advertising, in news, in everything. If I could go online and you could actually trust it, how cool would the internet be if you went online and you could say that article, I don't have to worry about that article having like got to read between the lines, how much misdirection is this? Is this, should I believe this? Because every article I read right now, I have to apply a grain of salt to it. It's more than a grain of salt now. It's going like, what am I actually, am I being sold?
It's tricky. I mean, much comes from like a person making a joke on Reddit and then it being repeated over and over and over again by different sites. And now no one has any idea if it's true or not.
Yeah.
There was all that controversy around Ray Gun, the breakdancer in the Olympics, supposedly cheating and committing a bunch of fraud to get her seat in the Olympics. And then currently, the latest news is that was debunked.
Yeah, it was all debunked. Sell some clicks.
Yep.
And nobody. Well, there are the only people that profit are bad actors.
Oh yeah.
And I don't like seeing that. That doesn't, again, completely self-centered on this target. That makes marketers and advertisers look terrible.
Yep.
That is not good for the industry we work in.
We've said it before, we're 2H Media. We like good things, we're against bad things.
Yeah.
We're in favor of transparency and we're against misinformation.
Yeah, so all of it. So I'd love to, again, we're gonna end up circling back on this as well, because what the outcomes of this are going to be, especially with an election this year, there's going to be all kinds of things where
we may not circle back on the Meta thing specifically.
Maybe not not the Meta thing, just the impact that.
If there's news in online information,
everything
we're going to be coming back to this.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on this? Because
no, man, I think we're good to wrap up.
I like it. This was great. If you have any, I'll let Aron end us off,
right on.
As usual.
Thank you for joining us. If anything we spoke about today resonated with you, or if you just need help with your digital marketing, I would encourage you to book a free strategy session with one of our experts. We'll take the time to get to know your business, develop a plan that makes sense for you, and answer your burning questions so that you can move forwards with confidence and clarity. If that sounds impactful, then book a strategy session. And in the meantime, thanks for watching.
Take care.